Godspeed. Oh, turn my camera off. Reminder to do that. We are live. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is Brian Terrian here from the Disability Digest. And welcome to our Wednesday live event. Today, we're going to talk all about legal. And as I look at the subject line or the title of the event, it looks like I put an extra character after legal. So if you're wondering what we're talking about today, it actually is legal. It's not legal. I think that's another I on the end or L. So yes, and with us, Miss Jam, Mr. Phillip. Thank you for
Hi
joining today's
guys.
event.
Hello, everybody.
Yes. So for today, I am doing this event in hopes that the 9 areas that I'm going to cover with you will help you understand, like, if and when you need legal assistance, and the questions to ask so that you can appropriately hire and maximize your legal experience. And in many ways, I hope you never have to use legal experience. And we're going to talk about that too here in today's event. So when and if you need it, where to find it, questions to ask, how to get the most out of it. I'm going to talk about free legal, paid legal for approvals, overpayments, continuing disability reviews, and at the end, you can call in with your question or you can enter it in chat and we'll take your questions at the end. Sound good? Good.
Yeah.
Let's do it. So if you are new here, very, very welcome to you. Here at the Disability Digest, we work hard to advocate for you to help you get all of the Social Security disability benefits you're entitled to. That's focusing on helping you get approved, helping you keeping them, and helping you maximize them. So if you're new to this channel, that's great. Encourage you to subscribe if you like the work that we do. And at the end, we'll help you understand how you can get some additional resources from us. So let's start by breaking this down. If you're approved for disability, this information definitely would be of value to you. Again, I'm in hopes that you don't need it, but the 2 areas that you might need it for are for an overpayment, which we have covered recently. There's about 9 million Social Security recipients getting an overpayment request annually. Or it could be for a continuing disability review. About 20% of disability recipients are reviewed annually, and 144,000 in that range end up losing their disability benefits because of a continuing disability review. So if you find yourself in one of those unfortunate situations, this information I'm in hopes would be of value. And then if you're going through or in the disability approval process, even if you're just getting started, or if you already have legal representation, there's information in here that I'm in hopes that will make a difference in your quest. Okay. So first of all, I want to talk about for those of you that are approved. This is the most difficult area to get effective legal representation. And the reason for that is this. If you have an overpayment request, which is Social Security sends you a letter, says, we paid you benefits for these 2 years that we shouldn't have, and you owe us $45,000 and we'd like it back in 30 days, something like that. Then your quest for legal cost is different than somebody that goes through the approval process, because you will likely have to pay cash out of pocket up front for legal representation. And part two is it's difficult to find people that do overpayments. Now, we've been fortunate here that we have contacts that do help people with overpayments. One of them actually is attorney James Mitchell Brown. So thank you, James. So that's one challenge that you're faced with. So you can prepare for that in the unfortunate, unlikely event, have some money set aside, understand, what your options are. Then the second is for continuing disability reviews. If you get your disability review and they review it and they find that everything is still in compliance, then you could keep your benefits. If they find that it's not, then you have a decision. You can either keep your payment coming and appeal. But if you lose the appeal, let's say you lose the appeal in 10 months, it's likely that you're going to owe them 10 months of back benefits. The alternative to that is you can have your benefits stopped, which is tough for people because it's what you rely on, or most do, for their income. And then if you win, then you can get that back benefit amount of 10 months, for example. So I bring that up because if you're seeking legal representation for a continuing disability review, one, it's difficult to have people that do that work. And two, you have to, then there isn't really any back benefits unless you stop your check, and there might be, 10 months or 2 years. So here at the Disability Digest, we provide resources to help you with your review, to help you with your overpayment if you have it, and that's courses and also possible representation. So those are some things to consider. I wanted to address that up front because the more obvious quest for people that are using legal assistance is for those that are going through the approval. Last point I'll make is this, actually. This was interesting. We had a lady that contacted us this week. I'll say her name was Connie. She has a family member that is receiving benefits, and she has a disability representative on retainer just in case something went wrong. But that individual is phasing out of their practice. They're looking for a backup. So this was something new that I hadn't been faced with, where she actually had a situation where she had money on retainer where she said, here, I want you if I need you. And this is, I don't know what the retainer was. So that's something new that I was exposed to. All right, so let's get into it. The first thing is a lot of people, when they hear legal, the first thing that comes to mind is the price and the cost, and that creates some apprehension. I want to hopefully help you overcome that. And I encourage people that are going through the approval process, or even like the preparation example that I gave you, is to be proactive. Because if you need to react when it's too late, for example, you've been denied or you received an overpayment letter, then you're in a stressful scramble situation. So I understand. My point in this section is to have two things in place. Understand the process. And then have a plan B, have somebody that's there for you. And in preface of this whole thing here, what I want to communicate to people is that understanding the process is really critical. And I'll use the approval part for an example. And the reason is, if you hire somebody, and you're looking at our disability approval course that I'm going to go through with you in a moment, If you hire somebody as an attorney and you don't know what needs to be done, then how how do you know? How can you hold them accountable for the fact that, all right, well, they should have this evidence in at this stage, they should have this, I should have had this ton test done at this stage. So understanding the process. How we help you here at the Disability Digest is you have access to a membership that's no charge. You have access to a disability approval course that you see on our screen right now. And this approval course is broken down into sections that covers each section of the approval process, how to file, what to do while you're waiting, your reconsideration appeal, your hearing, and it's put together with industry experts that you see on the right here. John Ginsberg, Carl Osterhow, ex-Social Security employee Barbara Mountain, and James Mitchell Brown. So step number one, this can save you a lot of angst, and you could even use this to avoid all of the legal if you chose to. Okay. So that's one thing that we can help you. Now, we have for those of you that may be risk adverse and say, all right, well, I don't know these guys. I don't want to come in here and check it out and do all that. Up on the screen right now, this is the overview. This is the introductory video for each segment of the disability approval course. And Philip and Jam, at some point in the program, will put this link in here. So you can just come in and watch all the videos and understand what we cover and what we provide and how that could work to complement legal that you already have, how that could work to replace legal, possibly. So that's the first thing. Know the process, right? Okay. The next thing is this. A good attorney cannot win a bad case. So actually, I don't want to I'll put you guys on the spot. You're good at it. Do you have any situations with individuals that you've spoken to lately here, members of the Disability Digest, that likely they thought they had a good case, but actually there was something glaringly obvious that was missing, and they wouldn't have known it unless they spoke to you?
Yes, I recently had a conversation with a member who had an impressive work history. His age is about 50 years old, and education. However, over the conversation, um, I figured out that all of his medical conditions are being treated, are not all of his medical conditions are being treated by a doctor, and some have not been properly diagnosed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
All right. That is a great example. So here's what could have happened to that individual. They could have submitted an application into the system, and and a best case scenario, maybe 6 months, received a decision that would have likely have been a denial. The alternative is, could have quickly gotten into some diagnosis, into some treatment for those conditions, considered maybe pushing off the application a little bit later and then increasing the chances for approval. That's a really good example. Yep. Philip, any thoughts on that situations? Oh, your microphone. We'd love to hear from you, but you're on mute.
You hear me?
Loud and clear.
All right. I don't really have anything other than somebody had ran into the problem of their onset date had run out, and they were wondering if they still were able to file even though they're past their onset date.
Okay. Past their onset date. Okay, so let's touch on this one a bit. What this situation is Social Security disability benefits expire about 5 years after you've stopped working or you've really reduced your work, which is sounds like that's what happened to this person, Philip, right?
Yeah. I don't know what I meant was their date last insured, their DLI.
Okay. So then their question is, can I go back and still prove that I was disabled when my benefits were in place, when I was insured, right?
Correct.
Okay. So this is definitely a specialized area because somebody would need to go through the medical records. I don't, in my opinion, there are situations where I feel you can do this on your own if you choose to with the right resources, but in a situation like this, I would advise against it. And this is a good situation where legal would be worth it because they would have to go back into the medical records, find the smoking gun that would allow them to communicate to Social Security that this individual approves. So that is possible, and that is a good example of a unique situation. Now, if this person had just gone forward and applied, like without knowing that, their case would have been like denied because they're not insured. They haven't, their work history doesn't support the benefit check. Okay, good. Next, I'm going to move on
Are there is
to um, a question that we commonly get here and others is, are you an attorney? And I'm not an attorney. Philip's not. Jam, are you an attorney? No,
No.
no. None of us are attorneys. Uh, so I'm going to go through the difference between how those that can do this work and what their criteria is, and then you can judge the difference if it's really attorney is different than a representative, so on and so forth. So as an attorney, by passing the bar, you have the ability to represent Social Security disability cases and to get paid directly from the Social Security Administration or the Federal Reserve. And we'll go through the fee in a moment so you understand what it is. As a non-attorney, anybody can represent a disability case. Like you don't have to have any criteria. You can actually even go into court as a representative and argue a case. Um, but in order to get paid, then you need to go through the Social Security EDP&A test, this right here, which allows people to be recognized by Social Security to have direct payment. It also gives you access to different tools in the case representation process for Social Security. So for non-attorneys to do this work, they're, in my opinion, clearly held to a higher educational standard because they need to pass a test that is based on this Part 404. This is the Code of Federal Regulations. All of the disability like regulations that the judges use and the local offices use. This is like the Bible. And so non-attorneys are asked to take a standardized test. I forget how many questions is on it, but it's a lot, and pass that test. And the test has, when I went through it, it had a 55% pass rate. So a pretty significant failure ratio. So you need to know everything from like what types of people are insured all the way through like very unique things. Like if somebody missed their appeal deadline and they have a severe mental illness, you could appeal that. Just unique things like that. And then annually, you're held to um, compliance where you need to go through and do some recertifications. So attorneys don't need to do this. They just simply can be an attorney and gives them the access. So when you look at the educational requirements, it's significantly different. I'm not here to say one is better than another. I'm just here simply to say that understanding being held accountable for and adhering to the Code of Federal Regulations is what non-attorneys have. So, and the work that we do, when I started doing this work here at the Disability Digest, I just worked with members, and if they needed or wanted legal assistance, I'd refer them out. But I got super annoyed with the quality of work that people did. So I decided to go forward and go through and pass the test. And in full disclosure, I'm not a good test taker, and it took me 3 tries to get through this test. It is not easy, and it's a lot of money. So and we've been representing cases, and I think we do great at it now. But so that's the difference. So when people say I want an attorney, I think what they really mean, or what the question should be, is you want good representation, and good representation could come from either. And this is my opinion. Um, all right. So that's the difference between attorney, non-attorney, what they are held accountable for. Let's next talk about location. And does location matter in seeking or your quest for a disability attorney? Like just this morning, actually, Philip, I think this was in your Facebook group. Somebody was looking for representation in Memphis, Tennessee. And pre-COVID, there used to be some, in my opinion, there was a different value placed on the local aspect of having an attorney. And the reason for that was you would go into an actual physical court, and the relationship with the attorney and the judge, they could have been working together on several cases, have a high degree of trust. That's changed since COVID and the hearing structure. And I'm bringing this up because it can help you evaluate like what's really important to you. So in Memphis, Tennessee now, and any other part of the U.S. or territories, if you have a hearing, there's some that are done in person now, but most are still done by telephone or some by video. And if you go to an in-person hearing, then the judge sits behind like a big, thick piece of glass, and so do you, still in today's environment. So there isn't the intimacy there that there used to be. Um, and so in the circles that I travel in and the work that I do, there are many or most that still prefer what has transpired out of the COVID era, which is telephone hearing. And the reason for that is with a telephone hearing, it's good for many of the applicants because you don't have to go anywhere. You just simply pick up your phone, you're in a quiet room, you make sure you don't have any distractions, and it's based on medical evidence, and what your conditions are, what the doctors have listed them are as, and what the limitations are. And you can have, poor medical records and go to court with a limp and say your arm doesn't work. But if you can't support it with your medical evidence, it's going to be hard to get approved. So for us here at the Disability Digest, the other thing that it helps us with is gives us access to a diverse talent pool. Like we have individuals like Jonathan Ginsburg and attorney James Mitchell Brown that do representation hearing work for us, and they wouldn't be able to do it. They're not going to travel from Cleveland, Ohio to Memphis, Tennessee to do a hearing, but they do it over the phone. So that's been a game changer. So you have to evaluate. My point, the bottom line I want to make with this is this. You are much better off to find somebody that is good, that is a good fit for you based on all the criteria I'm going through here, than to get stuck on somebody local. Common mistake that people make is they'll go and they'll find somebody local thinking that they're an attorney, they're local, but they might not be specializing or doing enough of this work to be good at it. And if you look at a website for a law firm and they're doing divorce and dog bites and some other civil law and some Social Security, you really need to evaluate the effectiveness of that representation for you. I mean, are they doing enough of this to be good, or is it just kind of a by the way because they know they might be able to make a buck at it, right? That's a key point. Okay. Next thing I want to talk about is finding somebody that may be a fit for you. I'm going to cover a couple of categories on this. And uniqueness in disability cases is common because they're like a snowflake, in my opinion. There's no two alike. But finding people that may have more experience with your situation would be a good investment for you. And I'll give you two examples. One is veterans. Even veterans with a high rating of 100% permanent and total, it's really challenging for them to get approved. And so for somebody for a veteran to look for somebody that has done that work and understands that the medical records and how they're recorded, that there is commonly rotation of doctors, and that the limitations are not reported consistently with what a civilian might do, and that if they go to a hearing, it could be likely that they'll be in front of a judge that is also a veteran, and what are the nuances of that? Those four things that need to be overcome. So you would be better off and get a better return on your investment with somebody that understood that. So that's one like criteria like that. The other one is conditions. Like Jam gave a great example. This individual didn't have all the conditions treated. But let's say use an autoimmune condition like fibromyalgia. Fibromyalgia, somebody could look fine. It's just they feel terrible, like they have the flu 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So to be able to get them approved in our experience requires a few things. There is a specific test that should be done for these individuals. I have it up here on the screen. Okay. So this is a Social Security ruling for fibromyalgia. Now, if you have fibromyalgia and you don't have this tender point test done, it's going to be really difficult for Social Security to understand the severity of it. Now, if you have this tender point test done and it's done by your primary care rather than a rheumatologist, that's also going to be a difference. A rheumatologist understand these conditions good. It could be also maybe pain management if there isn't a rheumatologist in your area. But this one thing for that condition, that one nuance in understanding, the condition is helpful. So for the audience out there, the question that you want to ask there's really two, is what experience do you have with cases like mine that have conditions like mine and understanding what you need to prove. So for some of you, you need to prove that you can't do any job if you're under 50 or have had sporadic work history. Or if you're over 50, it could be that you have to prove that you're not able to do your type of work. So ask them, what experience do you have, right, with that? And then there was a second point I was going to bring up and I forgot it. So that is the primary one though. The experience. You also want to be aware of who's going to do the work. You might meet with somebody, and maybe they're working on a team. What is the team like? Okay. All right. Another one is COVID. COVID cases were difficult to get approved. A lot of it was dependent upon the evaluation of the executive function, the ability to remember repetitive tasks. And there's certain evaluations that needed to be done for that. So just be aware, understand what you need to prove and what experience they have. Okay. Next is
Brian, I just have a
yes.
question
Yes, Jim.
regarding fibromyalgia. What if the doctors will not cooperate doing the tender point test for the reason that they already have been diagnosed?
They need to really like if they want to get approved and this is their primary condition, they would need to move to another doctor or really force their hand. Many that are in the private insurance environment, if they have depending on how their insurance is set up, they can't get the referral, then they're going to have to do that. Really hard to get case approved without it. Good question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's just my experience. Worked with a lot of folks with fibromyalgia. Win percentage. I don't put a lot of emphasis on this. I know that there are people that speak publicly about their win percentage is this, that. There's a few things here. I think it goes back to the prior questions that I encourage you to ask. Win percentage could be skewed by the types of cases they take. I mean, if they take all slam dunks, then they're going to have a really good win percentage. If they're willing to stretch and fight, like there's certain people that we have a special place here at the Disability Digest. If they need help and they're over 18, and they meet this criteria, you know, with in most cases we'll help them out. So that's really that's one thing you need to consider in the win percentage. For me personally, I just am not comfortable sharing a win percentage for that reason. If somebody asks us and it's in a private conversation, then I'd be glad to tell them. But that's just my take. The next thing, as we get to two more points on this, and for those of you that are out there, we're going to take some questions. You'll be able to call in with your question, or you can put it in the text chat in the Facebook group or YouTube, wherever you are. The next thing is understand the expectations for like the approval time, how long it takes, get a communication plan in place with your representative. Understand what they expect of you and what you can expect of them. Without that, it leads to a lot of stress, anxiety, because people don't know. There are many people that I've met that think that they should be able to call their disability representative every day. Well, I mean, if they can find somebody that will support that, that's great, but it's a slow moving process. And it's just very difficult to accommodate somebody that wants that type of service because, again, there might be, you put your initial application in, there could be no activity for like 4 or 5 weeks. So get a communication plan in place with your attorney that you are comfortable with. That's a good fit for you, where to send your stuff, when you can expect a return call. Okay, here's the next thing I want to cover with you. Let's see what else I have. One thing I wanted to talk about is I didn't cover in one of the prior pieces is working. There are some attorneys, they have different opinions about working and going through the approval process. And a lot of it is case related. So it's a case by case situation. Social Security does allow you to work and go through the approval process. But it makes it difficult in a lot of situations if you're working, especially if you're over like what I refer to as a hobby amount of income. If your income is over like $500 a month, it just makes it really hard to get the cases approved. So with your disability attorney, non-attorney representative, make sure that you are just very transparent. You ask, you don't hide anything. So that, I mean, they have to invest money in your case, frankly, because they put money in until they win and get paid. And if you screw it up because you're working, nobody wins. Okay. Here's the last thing is there's like 25 reasons that we have collected why you should discuss your case where you're going through the approval process or have a plan in place to have representation if you're already approved, there's a lot of reasons why you should do this. And I've listed some of them here. One is you can talk to people and it's free. And if you're going to apply or appeal or work on a CDR or an overpayment on your own, how comfortable are you with it? How important is it? I mean, do you really want to do this yourself? I mean, I've met, I don't know if it's 8, maybe 9 now people that I've met in all the time that I've been doing this since 2006 that I've gone all the way into court, right? And 3 of those were managed to get approved on their own. So it's not very good odds. So there's no upfront cost of hiring. So one thing that I encourage everybody to think about if you're going through the process, interview with a representative, even several, because they might see something in your case that you don't, like Jam's example. They could give you an idea, if they accept your case, that would be a good idea. That would tell you got a pretty solid case. They might uncover additional evidence, and maybe you've got, a lot of people, like the fibromyalgia, for example, they have other conditions. Sometimes they're not diagnosed, like depression or IBS. That's common with those. So if they were diagnosed and added to the case, it would strengthen it. So they can oftentimes strengthen it. So those are some of the key reasons. And even if you don't plan on using them now, having a plan B in place, so somebody that knows your case, understands it, is willing to accept it, you could go back to easily to move forward. So keep that in mind for all aspects, whether you're trying to get approved or approved. It's just good disability insurance. All right. Before we start taking questions, call-ins, Philip, Jam, anything to add to this?
No,
No.
No? Okay. All right. So let's see. You want to take a few questions before we open the phone lines, or what's your preference, folks?
Yes.
Okay.
Questions first.
We'll put the number up to call in just a moment, and we're going to take a few questions first.
Mhm. Okay. Um, More of a statement. I never received my Social Security payment from October, but got the first check today. When I called Social Security, they said it had something to do with SSI review.
Interesting. So they withheld it, sounds like.
Mhm.
Hope you get it back, especially
Right.
around the holidays.
All
Okay.
right. Here's one, very common from Michael. Howdy, is it okay to work part-time while applying for SSDI?
Yeah, we just touched on that. I mean, it's a case by case situation. Anytime you work and you're showing money, it has a negative influence on your case. Let's just put it that way. Because the argument that you're attempting to build is that you cannot work, right? So the top shelf way to do it is not work. But if you are working, then again, like I said, if it's in the hobby level, that's not, that's not as bad as being up towards the limit of $1,550 a month. Which would be the limit for next year monthly.
All right, here's one from Lulu. I received my approval on a birth defect. So, what's the risk of ever losing my benefits?
Really good question. Don't know. I mean, sometimes with permanent conditions, if there's any new like medical that might allow you or allow Social Security to say, well, maybe you could work now, but it's less likely in a situation like that.
Mhm. All right, more of a statement from Kenneth Carpenter. I've been waiting 3 years now and have not worked. I have multiple sclerosis. I lost everything.
Do you think he's applied?
Yeah, applied and waiting.
Mm-hmm. 3 years. Well, I wish you a speedy approval. Come join us here at the Disability Digest. Membership is no charge. Then you can get enrolled into our disability approval course, find out what needs to do at the exact step that you're at so that you can put that in place either with yourself or if you're using representation.
All right. Here's from Kimberly. I got my work history. My last 2 jobs are not in there.
Yeah, that's a good one. Last 2 jobs are not in your work history. So this is a Social Security situation that you need to submit your pay stubs and do all that and get it rectified. That will definitely influence your check amount. I'm wondering if you're in the approval process. I mean, you could still do this while you're going through the approval process, and I expect it would be retroactive. But this I am familiar with. It's happened to others before, and they've been able to resolve it.
Mhm. All right. From Jarian, I had a phone interview. How long does it take to get a decision?
If you've had a phone interview, if I understand what you mean by phone interview, you're just getting started. And the average
Mhm.
decision time if in the US, is 233 days. So I would follow your process of your application in your online account with Social Security at myssa.gov. Yep.
All right. From Thomas, I'm moving to Maryland from California. Will Maryland cover my Medicare Part B just like California does?
They should. Yeah, every state has a little nuance that's different. Jim, while you're reading off some questions, and Philip, I want to open up the phone lines for those that want to call in, and we'll
Mm-hmm.
we'll do our best to do a balancing act here.
Okay. Okay.
So for
Okay.
those of you that would like to call in, I've just opened up the phone line, and the number to call is on the screen, 844-202-5609 extension 15, sitting right here. Okay.
All right. One question.
Yeah.
All right. From Nilani, I went to court with an attorney that failed me 100%. I found out how much she failed when Social Security Review Board rescinded the unfavorable decision, and now I'm going back to appeal to the court. If SSA, sorry, my struggle with attorney selection is finding one who is willing to earn with their money and by just willing to look at all of my evidence that has been submitted. If Social Security failed to pull important doctor reports into evidence and my lawyers are not making sure that the evidence prior to court, who can I get to hold people accountable and ensure adequate representation?
That's a really good question. So one thing that comes to mind is this. I'm going to go back to the question about the fibromyalgia and talking to an attorney about how you're going to get me approved. If you go to a hearing, the hearing process that's used by most of the good performing people that do this work is they will write a brief. They'll write a brief that will look at what is in the case file at Social Security, and your case file is separated by exhibits. So let's say there's 20 exhibits, and I'm just going to take this call and put it on hold. Hey, thanks for calling. This is Brian Terry, and do you mind holding? I'm just going to finish up this comment and then we can speak. All right?
Sure, no problem. Thank you.
Okay. So the information is broken down by exhibits, and then the objective of the legal team is to reference the key points in the exhibits that will get you approved. Now, for this particular situation, what comes to mind is just say, listen, let me see the legal brief. This sounds like this person knows their medical information, and that would help them understand. And then they could reflect back on it. So that's a suggestion. As well as the other key points of finding somebody that's done cases like this, how they're going to win it, etc. All right. Great. Thanks for your patience. Who is calling?
My name is Jose.
Hi, Jose. How are you today?
Hey, hanging in there as life is.
Good.
It's about hanging in there. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Yeah.
Good,
How
good,
can I help you?
good. Thank you. Back in earlier this year, I started getting what the Charlie horse turned into pain when my foot started tighten up. I went to a podiatrist. They made X-rays. They couldn't find anything. I ended up. I went to my primary, sent me to another podiatrist. They couldn't find anything. Next thing you know, I spent 2 weeks in the hospital. They couldn't diagnose me. I eventually got diagnosed by the Mayo Clinic back in August 29th, I believe. They finally found out I have what they call stiff person syndrome on one of my legs, mostly on my foot. And I haven't, I mean, I was let go from work back in August 4th because I was very limited to walking. A friend of mine had to hand me a walker so I can walk around because I would fall.
Okay.
And so now I'm trying to find out how I can go about, getting disability because, I could use the walker and everything, but I'm taking they put me on steroid treatment every week and Valium, and the Valium's taking a toll on me.
All right.
And he says it's thing that, I get confused, I get dizzy, I get sleepiness out of nowhere. My leg still tightens up.
Let me ask you a
my
few
lack.
questions, Jose,
Sure,
because we try to
sure.
keep these in the 3-minute range. You've
Oh,
given
I'm
me
sorry.
no worries. You've given me some really good information.
Mhm.
So is this in just one leg or is it in two?
And one.
Okay. Is the other one fine?
The other one is fine, yes.
Okay.
The other one, that's. Mhm.
Okay. But it still is limiting your mobility.
Yeah.
How old are you?
I'm 53 going on 54 in February.
Okay. And what kind of work have you been doing?
I've been doing the job I did, I'm sorry, accounts payable, and I also had to do inspect trucks, so I had to climb up on trucks, make sure, because it was a leasing company, so, and a rental, so I had to inspect trucks when they came in and when they left, make sure they were in good condition. And that's what I was doing for that time.
What was your job
And
title?
they never even told me what my job title. They told me I was just gonna. When they hired me, they told me this job is just to make sure that we get these trucks in and out, and we lease them and rent them out.
Okay.
So I can't remember exactly if I even had title. I would have to call my old manager back
Okay. That's all
and
right.
probably
Well, for
ask.
today, that would be eventually helpful. And so what out of like a 8-hour day, if you were to work one, what percentage of the time would you be required to be on your feet?
I would say half of the time. I
Okay.
would probably on my feet. Yes,
Okay.
I would guess.
And
Hmm.
how many years have you done this kind of work?
I did this part of the work. I only did this from October to August. Before this, I had another job working at the DMV.
Mm-hmm.
Before I switched jobs to this, I
Okay.
decided to move on to something else.
And how long were you
But
at the DMV?
combined, well, I have 5 years in one county and 8 years in the other one. So,
Okay.
yeah, that's what
13.
I did. Yeah,
And,
about 13.
and at the DMV, what amount of time were you on your feet for those jobs?
For those jobs, I would say on my feet, I'm going to say about 25, 25% of the time.
Okay.
I would be on my team. A lot of times it was sitting.
Okay. Are there any other like medical conditions that you have, Jose?
Other than that, that's it. That's what's causing me that problem. Yeah, and
Right.
I sit for a while, but I have to keep getting up because my leg tightens up.
I
Same thing
see.
when I'm standing. Yeah, so it's one of those things up and down, and I come out with like the medicine is just not doing much, you know, and I have to see my doctor on the 18th because he put me on
Right.
steroids, like I said, and he wants to see my results. So
Okay.
it's helped me with my foot a little bit, but not too much.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah.
So the medication is an issue as well, right? Because it sounds like you're on
Yes.
some pretty heavy stuff. So, I mean, do you think you could do any other type of work, like where you'd have the flexibility to sit or stand, or would the medication allow you to do it?
The medication, the problem with the medication, for some reason, it causes confusion for me,
Mm,
and some of the simple stuff that I know I was able to do, it becomes a task, and I'm like, and my wife would look at me and say, "It's this, Jose," and I'm like, you know, like a kid almost,
right, right,
and my lack of judgment sometimes.
right.
And that's what's problem. Other than that, I wouldn't think. I think I would, you know,
Sure.
maybe try it, but it's something that I mean I try to see if I can do the simplest task here. And sometimes I'm lost.
Yeah.
She's like, "Are you okay?" You know, that's what I get.
So,
And my wife, go ahead.
so if there was just like one question, like a one sentence question that you had for the reason for calling in, what would it be?
Um, should because they tell me I should try to just apply to for disability, and because continue on treatment every week,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and I'm afraid, you know, I say I go ahead, and because of my medication, I'm afraid to see, you know, probably be a very simple job that's ABC, you know, the way I look at it.
So is
You know,
your
my
is your
kids,
question, should you apply?
should I apply? Yes.
That's your question. Okay.
Yeah, should I apply or should I go in person there or
I see. How should you apply? Okay.
yeah, I should apply in person or something.
Okay.
I've been reading all your you know, I've subscribed, so I've seen a lot of stuff,
Right.
you know, and I see that it's they have it even on. Somebody even pointed out to me. I think it's called compassion. It's under the compassion list
Allowance. Yeah.
allowance.
Yeah.
So
Those are deceiving in my opinion. So
yeah, they are.
So, all right, I'm just going to recap a few things, and then I'm going to ask my panel of experts here a question.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
53, your most recent job, you had to spend 50% of the time on your feet, and then before
Mhm.
that, for 12 years, 25% of time on your feet. You're not able to be on your feet because of the limitations from the stiff person syndrome. So it's in one leg and you have to use something to ambulate with to get around. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I got that right.
All
I
right.
have a walker. I can't even use a cane. I have to
Okay.
use a walker. Like,
All right. So Philip, Jam, do you think that Jose should go forward and apply for his disability benefits?
Yes, I actually spoke with him. Um,
Okay.
yeah, this week, or it was, I believe it was last week of Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And my advice was to increase his approval chances to wait 5 months of being out of work.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. So the I think that if you, the real question point is this is if you cannot work and this applies to everybody, then you should go forward and apply. And the premise of your case and my time on the phone with you is that you're over 50 and you've had jobs that have required you to be on your feet 25% or more of the time, 50% or more of the time, and that you cannot do those. So like Jam said, if you go forward and apply now and you're just out of work, your approval chances are 12 to like 19%. They go up slightly when you get closer to the 5 months being out of work. Whereas if you wait until 5 months or after, the statistics go up radically, 36% and higher. And you can apply, you can do this on your own, use the course and apply online. You can call in to Social Security and submit your information. If you choose to have a representative do it, then they would take your information down and just do all the work for you. So those are your options. Okay.
Okay. And where would I get a representative? Is there where I can get a representative, maybe? Mine is a mess.
I would reach back out to Jam. She can help you with that selection process. Yep.
Okay.
Or Jam can reach back out to you for sure. But
yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
That was a good call. Thanks for calling in. All right.
Thank you too for taking
Thank
the
you,
time.
Jose.
Yeah, I'll be 5 months without work in January 4th.
Okay.
So you think that increases my chances of, you said, right, 5 months?
Yeah. You should definitely start the process. My opinion is starting the process now is fine. With the understanding, if you can get whoever you use for a representative to submit it around month 5 or after. That's if you want to get approved at the initial application. It just increases your chances, and you have a good shot with your situation. Okay.
Oh, thank you very much for that.
You're welcome.
Okay.
You're welcome.
I'll get with Jan. Yeah, I don't know if she wants to call me or she wants to give me it's the same number that I call?
Yeah,
I
you
will
can
give
call
you a
back
call.
in. Yeah, Jam said she will give you a call. How about that for service? All right.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you for your kindness and your help.
You're
really
welcome.
Appreciate it.
All right. You're welcome, Jose. Thanks.
Yeah, Ryan. All right, thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay. Philip, you have any in your group before I open the lines back up?
Just one comment, or I want to get your opinion on, and I get this a lot in the group, is somebody that's applied, and of course they've been in the process for 2 to 3 years and are denied at the ALJ, and they have an attorney, and the attorney has told them that they should just reapply and forget about all of the back pay. What's your opinion on that?
Well, it's likely a lot of back pay. Second opinion would be my opinion. And a second opinion from somebody who really does this work well, like in our disability approval course over here, there's attorney Carl Osterhow. His group does this, does a lot of this work. So I would get a second opinion from somebody that really does this work. Dave Chermel is another one. There's not many people that do this high level, and if they both say, or one of them says, you know what, you don't have a case, then if to go forward at these higher levels on your own I wouldn't do it. So that's my take. Okay. I'm going to open up the phone lines. Philip, sorry to interrupt you. If there's something else, we can chat about it.
No, go ahead and open the line.
Yeah, okay. So let's see. I'll put the number back up here. 844-202-5609, extension 15. Yep. Any questions in the meantime?
What if I've got one here. If you owe state of Texas money for an overpayment of unemployment, will your back pay be sent to them?
Could be. There's a lot of nuances with
Does that vary?
overpayment, workers' compensation. I don't know the formula, and if
Does
some
that
of that was during COVID, it's treated differently.
and does that vary from state to state, Brian?
Don't know.
Hmm.
I don't know. No. So good. Um, Listen, we're gonna wrap up here, and as we do, I want to just give everybody a heads up for next week's live. Next week's live will be the last live event that we do for the year, and we're going to focus on setup time for next year. And we looking at next year, you get like a 3.2% increase in your check, which is not a lot. I see a lot of the comments and people are concerned about that. There's a lot of opportunity for side hustles, supplementing your income, doing things like that. A lot of people just want to simply know if they can work. So we're going to concentrate on that area. Like, what is it that you could do? And if there's people out there that are going to come back next week and you're doing something to contribute, would love to hear what you're doing as like a side hustle, part-time job, a business, so that we could maybe emulate that with others. So that's what we have on tap for the last show of 2023. Good. Last thing is for today is jam, Philip, as always. I'm grateful. I wouldn't be able to do this without you guys, though I could probably do some variation of it. It wouldn't be pretty. So I am really grateful to have you here and to contribute and share your insight. And for
Glad
those
to
of
help.
you that are out there, I hope you enjoyed the show. We'd love to hear your feedback. If you're new here, I encourage you to subscribe. And if you're not a member here at the Disability Digest, it is the very best way that we can help you. You can watch all the videos and stay tuned into these, but